Hey, Tony Gaskins here. Want to pop in. With everything that's going on in our country, it got me to thinking and really, had to look at things a little differently. And I'm being a man. In order for me to change my life, I had to be hard on myself. I didn't baby myself. I didn't pamper and pacify myself. I had to be hard on myself and take, drastic measures for drastic change. And I'm always real hard on my standards and stipulations, for men. And as a man, I believe you can't make excuses, you got to make changes. And I stand by that. I'm real tough on it. And a lot of times guys would always say, hey man, you man bashing, you man bashing. And that's how we take it a lot of times. If somebody holding us accountable or somebody pushing us to be better, we say, oh, you man bashing. Oh, you picking on me. And when I started to think about this, I started to think about it and I said, when I think about being a black man in America, which is different, I know a lot of times people want to be all inclusive and include everybody, but it's different walks, and we just got to be honest about that. It's not the same. I got a white male friend, and even in everything that's going on, he's still making insensitive remarks, and I had to check him and let him know. But it's like so many white males struggle with just that complex, and it's sad. So it shows me that it's real tough, for black men in America, especially, just having real confidence, And so I started to think about this thing and I said, imagine, we lost George Floyd, and God rest his soul and God bless his family. But imagine living through that. Imagine had he lived through it. But imagine the rest of us who lived through it, as men, who when we see, it's us. I saw a video of a white police officer, punching and roughing up a young black girl and throwing her around. But she lived and she got roughed up. And that's the only case. Now we saw Sandra Bland lose her life in the cell. But when we go through all the Mike Brown, the Philando Castile, the George Floyd, the Eric Garner, and Ahmaud Arbery, which weren't police, but when you go through that list and you think just like, man, I could be running, I could be on a job like Ahmaud and be hunted down. And so now you take that and you put that into a relationship. You take this man his confidence has been stripped. He's full of fear. In order to balance out that fear, he matches it or masks it with anger. And then he kind of goes into this warlike zone in his mind. And it's almost like him against the world. So that it becomes hard for him to even purely love his woman and his children, because he feels under attack, and in so many different ways. So it's not to say to baby a man or to coddle a man. Sometimes it's just about being aware of it so you can speak to it. If you're a woman, if you're a mother, if you're a sister, if you're an aunt, if you're a grandmother, so you can speak to it. Because there's really one voice that cuts through to a man's core, and that's a woman's voice. And that voice has to come from a place of love. That's why grandma typically can reach a man. Grandma typically can reach a man. Mama typically can reach a man. Sometimes auntie, cousin. But typically it's mama or grandma that could reach a man, or a wife. And so it has to come from a place of love. And it has to say, hey, listen, I know you're under a lot of pain. I know you under a lot of stress. I know on a daily basis you walk down the street and you can fear for your life. I know when you get pulled over by police, you may be on edge because one wrong thing, you reach one wrong place and you could lose your life. Look at how Philando Castile lost his life. The man told the police officer, I'm armed. And he said, okay, now I'm reaching to get it. And then the police officer started screaming, don't reach, don't, and shoots and kills the man and didn't even process, like, do you think if this man had a plan to take your life as a police officer, he would tell you that he's armed, that he has a firearm in the car? Do you think, and I believe that's what the story was, if he was unarmed, that's even worse, if he was just reaching for his wallet or something. But the police officer didn't even think, do you think this man is going to do something to you in front of his 4-year-old daughter and his girlfriend? Do you really think this man, is that how you see black men? Like that type of a monster? That here you are doing a traffic stop and you think that this man is such a monster that he's going to take your life as a police officer who you have a gun right there in your hand. You think he finna try to take your life in front of his 4-year-old daughter and his woman. That is how black men are seen in America, as monsters. We are like not literally a monster, but that's how much fear that men of other races have of black men. And the men struggle with it. Other men struggle with it. So they try to bow up. They try to get tough. They try to be condescending. I was at a car dealership the other day and the man started talking down to me. I was looking at a car I wanted to buy. The man was like, can you show me an account with $1 million in it? Show me you could afford this car. You didn't show me an account with some money in it. That's what the man said to me. I'm like, I say, sir, I could buy this car 10 times over, but you know what? You won't get my business. I could buy this car cash today, but you will not get my business talking to me like that. I said, all that we going through in the world right now, we getting killed in the streets by police, and you got the nerve to talk to me condescending? I told that man about himself. Now see me, I don't play. Now, I don't play no game. But I want you to think about this now. And black women go through it too, but in a different way. We don't see black women being killed by the hands of police at the rate that we see black men being killed by police officers and by vigilantes in the street, by community police, community officers, community watch. We just don't see it happening. So it's a different dynamic. I know everybody want to be included on the same level, but it's a different dynamic. And it made me think about, that speaks to a lot of the reason why there's so much instability in black relationships and in the black household, because of, like I always say, that the oil flows from the head. So if the man is fearful, if the man has been stripped of his confidence, if the man is broken, if the man is hurting, if the man has lost his true essence, everything flows from him. So guess what? It's just like a bully. You know, a bully is a bully in school because he getting beat up by his dad or his older brother. So he becomes a bully in school. But now the one who getting bullied on in school, he may not have another human that he can beat on. So what does he do? He may go and kick his cat, kick his dog. He may go and beat up his teddy bear. So he gonna take it out on somebody. His lizard, goldfish. He gonna take it out on somebody. And so that's the same thing happens. a lot of black men feel beat up by America, feel ostracized, alienated, talked down to, disrespected, cut out of opportunities. And so in turn, this man takes it out on his woman and his children. So in order to try to ease his pain, he needs multiple women. He thinks he needs multiple women. You don't need multiple women, but you're telling yourself that. So he cheats on his woman. Then, because he's angry because of his job situation, can't get hired, keeps getting fired, can't get a raise, whatever it may be, can't get the respect he deserves, getting overlooked for awards, he takes it out on his woman. Because he don't want to go to his white boss and curse him out, because then he's going to lose the job altogether. So he come home and he's snapping at his woman, going off on his woman. Then when his children need him, he need to sit somewhere and drink a beer. He need to go somewhere and have some Hennessy and Coke. He need to go deal with another woman. He's trying to mask his pain or alleviate his pain, and because of everything he's feeling. So he may not possess the emotional intelligence because he was not raised to be emotionally intelligent. Instead, his life was more like a psychological or spiritual war zone, and he has not adapted. In essence, he's dealing with PTSD in a lot of ways, and now trying to be a husband and a father. And I realized, and I said, you know what? I kind of have to change my approach, with black men, and not talk to them the same way white men talk to them, but talk to them, as a loving brother, which I often try to do, but some may not take it that way. And I could talk to myself differently if I need to, because it's me. And we're not all built the same. And I didn't go through the war zone that the next man maybe went through. I had situations of my own, but it was not the worst by far. Mine was way better than a lot of situations that I see of guys coming up, black men coming up in real inner cities. Like, I'm from a small town in Central Florida, but real inner cities like Philadelphia, places that got real trenches, New York, Houston, LA, like real inner cities. I'm from a small town, so it's totally different experience. And at the same time now, to the women who may be watching this, you have to, I tell women of other races, leave black men, just stay away from black men, because it's hard enough for a black woman to understand her own kind, and she grew up with them. Now, I know y'all get mad about that and y'all gonna do what you want to do, but every single day I'm coaching a different white woman about her black man and the mess that they're in. And I have to tell her, listen, you don't know what you getting into. Like, that man gonna struggle to even purely love you because his oppressor looks like you. So that's what you suffering from. He doesn't respect you. He doesn't see you. Now, there are exceptions to the rule. I know black guys that got white wives and love their white wife, but again, that's 1 out of 100. It's not very common. So I tell women of other races, listen, don't deal with a black guy as a science project because you want mixed babies. If you want a black man, let it be blind love. Don't do it because you think black men sexy, because you like their abs, because you like his accent, because you like his skin color. Do it because y'all bumped into each other, y'all struck up a conversation, and you fell in love. Don't do it because of aesthetics, because it's a whole lot of pain that come with that man that you ain't gonna be equipped to handle because the oppressor look like you. And that's just real. That's real. A lot of people are afraid to say that now, especially conscious thinking people, but that's just the truth of the matter. Get mad, scratch your booty, and get glad. Now, to black women dealing with these black men, what you got to understand is like, you got the power, you got the influence, but you got to make sure that you speak to him and you speak truth to power. So you don't coddle him, don't baby him, because he's a man and he has a real man inside of him, and it's covered up by grown boy behavior, but he has a real man inside of him. So hold him accountable, but speak life into him and say to him, say, listen, I've been studying the black man and your plight, and please believe I got plenty plight of my own as a black woman. Most black women that I know have been sexually assaulted before the age of 18, and most multiple times, and then some sexually assaulted and physically. So express to him that you know and you understand plight and pain and all of those things, and that you understand that his is different, and you respect his heart and his efforts to work through it. But I know you're a man, and I know you can overcome it, and I know that you're called to more. I know that you were born and built to be great, and I know that your pain can become your praise, and that your pain can birth your purpose, and that your mess can become your message, and that you can change your life. And I refuse to settle for you being less than you were called to be, less than you were born to be. I refuse to be cheated on, to be beat on, to be cursed out, to be disrespected. I refuse. Now, if you could say that just like that right there, without crying and breaking down and screaming and cursing and all of that, say it to where he can hear you, he can feel you, to where he can look you in the eyes and see that you speaking from a place of emotional intelligence, and you speaking from a place of love, and to see that you really bought that life, that you will walk off and let him sit in his mess if he's unwilling to get up, brush himself off, and clean his life up and make changes, that you will leave him there. And trust me, it's not abandonment, it's accountability, because he grown. And the problem that a lot of black women make, and a lot of women in general, women of other races dealing with black men even worse. And that's why some black men pick women of other races, because they know that they don't understand them, and they know they're going to be just stuck like a deer in headlights in a trance. So a man that has no desire to change, he will choose a woman of another race in a lot of cases. There are exceptions to the rule. There are a few exceptions to the rule who is genuine, pure love. But most of the time, it's either a black man despising his own women, or despising himself, or he looking for a woman he could get over on, because he knows she doesn't understand his ways, his attitudes, his culture, his moves. And he know a black woman gonna be able to spot out the games a mile away and call it out, and he don't want to change. That's the truth of the matter. That's hard to hear. So you know, get in your feelings, hit the thumbs down. It's hard to hear, but that's the truth of the matter. And I said, you know, I'm finna stop pacifying people. I'm finna stop lying to people. I'm finna stop trying to tiptoe on eggshells and say what you want to hear, because we out here getting killed in the streets. It's time to be real. It's time to be all the way real. And it's going to offend who it's going to offend. Scratch your booty and get glad, like my daddy used to tell me. So listen, understand this. You got to hold that man accountable. And you got to tell him like it is. Like it is. You can't baby him. You can't call him. You got to be willing to walk away. And guess what? The man that's for you, the real man that's inside of him, it's going to be pulled. It's going to be pulled out of him. And he's going to grow. He's going to grow. He's going to change. I was the worst of the worst. I was just as bad as any man you've ever dealt with. I was just as bad, if not worse. I probably was worse than any man you've ever dealt with. And look at the man that I am today. And that's because this woman here. Now see, this woman here, she's a black woman from Jamaica. Now, I didn't choose her because of her skin color. She a couple shades lighter than me. My girlfriend before her was my color, maybe a shade darker. I just bumped into her in the mall. Thought she was cute. We started talking. I thought she was gonna be a one night stand. I was just looking for somebody that I could help ease a little bit of this here pain. And didn't know she'll become my wife. A lot of black women ask me about that. Say, Tony, why so many black men got light skinned wives? See, like I always say, it's some exceptions to the rule. Some of us just happen to bump into a light skinned woman and fall in love with her. And then it's true. Some out here hand picking light skin because they despise their blackness. But even that is still not his fault, because you don't understand. You got to understand psychological warfare. You got to understand spiritual warfare. When somebody has been made to hate themselves, they're looking for their opposite because they think their opposite is better than them, and their opposite is on a pedestal. So you really can't get mad at these black men because what's happening to them is bigger than them. Now what you can do is get a platform and speak it to them. And that's why I tell black men, listen, man, don't go out here picking a woman based off her race or her skin tone, because that's all coming from self-hate. You hate what you look like. You hate what your mama look like. You hate what your daddy look like. Now my mama actually is lighter than my wife, ironically. But I can't see nothing in my mama. Like, I don't know if she got Indian in her. Her hair don't say that she have Indian in her. My wife got Indian in her, like the Indian from India, not Native American like Cherokee, Seminole, but she got Indian in her from India. And so her hair is a different texture a little bit. And that's why my son's hair, my oldest son, his hair a different texture a little bit, because they got that Indian in them, because in Jamaica they had Indians in Jamaica and then Africans in Jamaica. So her mama, my color, her daddy looked like an Indian man from India, and so that made up her. My mama actually lighter than my wife, but is black, African American, no white, no Indian that we know of. Could be down the line. So I say that to say, my wife actually is the complexion of my mama, a shade darker. But we got a lot of men today, black men today, who have been made to hate themselves, have been made to despise their color, their natural walk, talk, dialect. Some black men try to lose the dialect that come from slavery. Typically you can tell a black man's voice without seeing his face, because the dialect is different, because he comes from a people that were not allowed to be educated, so could not read the words. So you hearing words, but if you hear a word and you have never seen that word, you may mispronounce that word. Now you got a vocabulary of half pronounced words. And then that's passed down and passed down and passed down. And then somewhere along the line, somebody gets an education and starts to teach people how to read. And then they start to read and say, oh, it's irregardless is not a word. Regardless is a word. Irregardless is not a word. And they started, oh, it's a 180 turn, not a 360 turnaround, because 360 means you come back to the same spot. So he did a 180 in his life. That means to turn around and to the other and go to the other direction. So you start to get an education and learn, and then start to be able to speak a little more proper. Me, I speak improper on purpose, because my grandma from Alabama, and I wanted to talk like my grandma because that represented my roots, that represented my blackness. So I talk like my grandma. And I never tried to get rid of my accent, my dialect. I keep it, and I embraced it. It cost me. It cost me now as an adult, because people judge you by your dialect. People think that you ignorant or that you dumb if you say your words a certain way, but just not realizing it just trickled down from no education back in the days. And then even when you were allowed to go to school, this teachers still weren't teaching you. By the time I was in 5th grade, I could read and write better than my mom, who graduated from high school. But she told me she just was passed along. So it's so much going on in this world. It's so much pain. It's so much. And that's why we have such a breakdown. And so people, with everything going on in the world, I'm still getting flooded with relationship questions. Ain't nobody asking me about what's going on in the world. I'm getting flooded with relationship questions. You know why? Because people dying every day in love and relationships. Every day, people dying. So that's why I gotta stay in my lane doing what I'm doing. That's why, because everybody plays a role. And everybody, you don't want your banker going to be your electrician. And you don't want your electrician going to be your banker. Everybody got different skill sets. And everybody got a different lane. Everybody got a different voice and a different message. And everybody won't be able to effectively do the same thing. So I realized, I got to take what's going on and identify in my lane, in my space, how it applies. And now seeing this and even seeing all the looting and seeing all of that, pain and anger and misdirection, misguidance, is also showing me and speaking to me about just the way we parent, the way we love, our relationships, our family structure, family dynamics, and what's being passed down. And having interaction with a couple of, white people and seeing their stance, some of them writing very apologetic and feeling so sorry, and some of them still in their ignorance and getting cut off by me, still in ignorance, still in bigotry, still in, this elitism mindset. And it's, it's kind of sickening to see. And we're dealing with a lot. So I want you to understand, especially to the black women that's watching this, you got to be able to identify a broken man. And you'll be able to identify that broken man by how he treats you. If he's trying to break you with his actions or his words, that's a clear indication that he's broken. Because a broken man will not build you. He'll try to break you. And a man who has been healed and he is building himself, he'll want to build you as well. So you got to identify that, and then you got to call it out. You got to call it out. Not yelling, screaming, cursing, and crying. You call it out from a place of power, from a place of love. Then you can decide if you got enough time to see if he's going to make a change. And if he's willing to make a change, then you can tough it out because he's making a change. So it won't be tough. Y'all will grow together. If he's unwilling to change, then guess what? That means that you don't have the key to the lock, the padlock that's on his heart. He belongs to another woman. Because when you meet your man, your words will have power. Your words will have influence. Remember, a woman's influence. When you meet your man, you will have influence in his life. If you cannot influence that man, if your words speaking into his life does not influence him or push him or provoke him to change, that's not your man. Get out immediately. Get out immediately. Whether you white, black, purple, green, yellow, get out immediately. That's not your man. Hey, this is Tony Gaskins. I done made reference to this book, so make sure, if you haven't read A Woman's Influence, make sure you definitely read that. Hey, I greatly appreciate you. God bless you. In these times, if you stressing, you struggling, you need to talk to somebody, visit mymentor.life. Book a session with your coach. If you are a coach and you've taken the life coach certification, make sure you go ahead, make your profile. It's a lot of people need some mental space, need somebody to talk to, some way to vent. So utilize mymentor.life, whether you the coach or you the client. I booked the coach on mymentor.life the other day. Had my session on Monday. Really helped me, really helped me being able to get things off my chest. So yes, even coaches have coaches. And if you're a coach on my mentor.life and you haven't taken and spent your money to book a session with a coach, how you expect somebody to book you? You need to see what it feels like to book a coach so you can determine what made you decide to book that coach so that you can better perfect your profile. Because if you ain't booking nobody, how you expect to get booked? Hey, this Tony Gaskins. God bless you. We'll talk soon.